The new Canon EOS R8 specs have just been leaked and they look absolutely insane. So let's jump straight into the article and see what this camera can do. So here are actually the Canon EOS R8's rumored specs. So it will have a 24 megapixel full frame CMOS sensor. So it will be a full frame camera and not an APS-C like it was actually mentioned before. People wasn't sure whether it would be an actual full frame camera or an APS-C camera, but now this is saying it will be a full frame camera. It's going to have a Digic X processor, which is in pretty much all of the other Canon cameras that you will see in the mirrorless world. It's going to have dual pixel CMOS AF2. It's going to have subject detection for aircraft, train, cars and animals. It's going to be able to shoot up to 40 frames per second, just like the Canon R6 Mark II. I'd imagine that will be in the electronic shutter mode, and that's unbelievable. 40 frames per second in this camera, that's going to be priced at $1,500. And I've got to admit, these specs, especially the 24 megapixel sensor as well, and some of the stuff that I'm going to be reading out in a minute, it looks very, very similar to the Canon R6 Mark II, but for a lot cheaper price. So will it be too good to be true? But just wait until you see the next actual things. So it's going to have 4K 60 frames per second. So it will have 24, 25, 30 and 60 frames per second in 4K with 6K oversampling. And then also it's going to have 180 frames per second, just like the R6 Mark II, in full HD 1080p, which is insane. Not 120 frames per second in 720p, just like the Canon EOS R. It will actually have 180 frames per second in full HD, which is absolutely mad. It does say in-body image stabilization is not installed, which I'd imagine like that will mean it's not going to be coming in this camera at all. We just won't have IBIS, just like the Canon EOS R and RP. So that makes sense, to be fair, because it's around the same price point of the Canon EOS R and RP. If it will have image stabilization, it's going to literally be the R6 Mark II but cheaper. A variance monitor, so I'm not sure what that is, to be fair. It's going to have a 3.5mm headphone jack, streaming via USB-C, so you'll be able to stream with it. It's going to have a new form factor, so does that mean it's going to have a different design? And it also says it's going to have a new vari-angle monitor. So if you've seen the new release of the A7R5, the new actual monitor on the back screen is a vari-angle touchscreen, so you can like vlog with it and see yourself like I'm doing right now. And you can also like have it like the old school way where it just flips out. It's 2-in-1, so you get the best of both worlds, so it's literally perfect for anyone. That is something I think that will be absolutely amazing, and if this camera does do that, I reckon that'll be absolutely unbelievable. It's going to weigh 461 grams, and it will have the kit lens, like I mentioned yesterday, of the RF 24 to 50mm f4.5 to 6.3 IS STM lens. And here it says the overseas price will be $1,499 and $1,699 with the kit lens. So is this too good to be true? I got to admit, with all these specs, I'd imagine it has to be 4K 60 will be cropped. It has to be. They can't get this price, because who would buy the Canon R6 Mark II? Like seriously, who would actually buy that camera if this is a full frame camera? It can shoot 4K 60 no crop. It's got the same megapixels. You can still shoot 40 frames per second. The only difference will be, as it looks from here, is the no image stabilization, which I don't think is the biggest deal ever, because Canon are known to have some problems with their in-body stabilization with the wobbles when you are vlogging, for example, in the corners. So I don't know if I mentioned as well, it's got C-Log 3, so you will be able to shoot log with this camera as well. So this camera just looks too good to be true and amazing, to be fair. So leave your comments down below what you actually think. Do you think this is actually real? Do you think it's too far-fetched? Do you think it'll actually be an APS-C camera? Leave your thoughts down below, and will you be interested in this camera if these specs are true? Even if these specs are not true, will you still be interested in it if it's an APS-C, if it can't shoot 4K 60? Let me know what your thoughts, because it is actually a really nice price point, the same around as the Canon EOS R and RP, and I think a full frame camera at that price is very much needed for Canon, because the Canon EOS R and RP are very outdated. Even 2018 now outdated, especially on the video side. I think that's what's needed, and if this is true, I'll be very interested in getting this camera. So thank you very much for watching. That's the end of the video. If you did enjoy this video, you actually might like this video here, where we actually see more in depth of what Canon are planning for in 2023.